Okay, now what I want to talk about is basic rules of filmmaking. There's quite a few. I'm going to go through pretty much the basics of it. And remember, rules are rules. They can be broken if it's warranted. If there's a reason, if there's motivation for it, then I say go ahead and break them. But you need to learn them first, okay? One of the first rules is motion to motion. What I mean by that is when you're shooting a shot and the camera is moving, if you're going to cut to another shot, you should cut to another moving shot. And then the camera can stop, lock off, and then you can go back into your static shots or your coverage. That's a pretty good rule. It's nice. It works nice. It's flowing. You see it a lot of times on opening scenes or opening credit sequences. But I just want to tell you that there's times where you might want to, because what happens is when you move the camera during a shot and you don't cut to another moving shot, it feels like the brakes have been put on, and it kind of gives the audience a jolt. So they're like, "Whoa, something just happened there. I feel like I just hit a brick wall." Well, that might be good sometimes. Let's say we're in a business meeting and all the ideas are flowing, and you're doing a 360 camera move around everybody because you want it to feel like it's almost a well-oiled machine, and all these ideas are great. So you emphasize that with a 360-degree shot. And then what happens is one person stands up and says, "This sucks." And boom, I would cut to that person from a moving shot, and because he's the static. He's the wrench that's being thrown in the gears that we just created with our composition. So in this case, breaking that rule would actually be more impacting to the audience because it'll make the audience feel what the people in the meeting are feeling. So keep that in mind, okay? The next is the rule of thirds, is a compositional rule breaking the frame into three grids horizontally and vertically. Where the grids intersect are called power points or points of interest. That's where you place important information. So what I'll show you right here, there's no image here, just except I'll show you the grid within the frame. As you see, it's broken up into thirds. You got your top third, middle, and your bottom. Then you have your left, middle, and right. This is where the access points come into play. We're going to talk about the XYZ access points, and you'll understand it better then. Right now, what we want to do is wherever you see an intersecting line is where you want to put images of interest. Usually eyes usually go to the top third. You never really want to place something in the middle because what happens in the middle, it looks like a FBI picture, at the post office, the most wanted. There's no depth, because you can't see the side of somebody's face. They're staring right into the camera. But sometimes you might want that. And there's certain films where they introduce the character and they just look flat and they're staring right at us. But that's because the filmmaker is telling you that this person's a criminal. They're going to be one at some point. So that's motivation for doing that. Again, but you normally want to keep what we call in tableau, was when someone turns to the right or turns to the left so we can see the depth of their face and their facial features. Here's a nice example. There's a lion, and notice right where everything splits, his paw is the main focus, his tail, and look where his head's at. So it's a intersecting line. So that's actually a well-composed shot, and there's a nice lead room to the right also. So you can keep that in mind. The line of action is an imaginary line that bisects subjects in order to preserve sightline and screen direction. Now, if you look at this diagram here, if you look right down the center and it says line of action, we draw an imaginary line between the two people. Then we take a circle, we draw it around it, and that's 360 degrees. If you stay on one side of that line, you're going to have good sight line and screen direction. Because if you cut to the other side during a shot, everybody's going to flip. And that's what we call the 180-degree rule. What happens is you have to shoot from one side of that line of action or the other. That's why you shoot at the 180. Here's a nice example. If we start out and the camera's on the right, which is the green side, we notice that the actors are the man in the yellow shirt, the man in the blue shirt, Man in the yellow shirt is actually camera left. Man in the blue shirt is camera right. So we have nice screen direction there. So if we shoot, we can shoot anywhere on that green side. But the minute we cut to the other side, to the red side, look what happens. Now the man in blue is camera left and the man in yellow is camera right. The only way you can get away with this is if you shot a reverse shot, but you have to establish the whole room and establish where everybody's at if you're going to do that. So keep that in mind also. And you can safely break the rule. When you safely break the rule, you can do it by moving the camera, because the audience gets to see that you're moving across the line. And then you can move the actor. If the actor gets up and moves, there's a new line made. So then now we're breaking it, but we're creating a new one. I'm going to show you an example of this. Or you can use a cutaway. That means you cut away to something where you don't see the actors, then you cut back to the actors, and you can have actually gone across the line because we forget what we've seen. So you're using that cutaway as a buffer. And then what I said about the reverse shot, you got to make sure you establish the whole room and the spatial relationships of the actors, and then you can do a reverse. Right now, this is the same example again. So just remember, camera left, camera right. Make sure if Angie, who the actor on here is, and you got Chris, make sure they stay on the left and on the right if you want a nice, well-balanced, composed shot. And you can shoot anywhere in that 180 that we chose to put the camera on. So I want to actually show you a scene study for the 180-degree rule, where we're going to see how the rule is broken twice. Again, there's not going to be any sound in this, and you're going to see that the camera will move at one point, and then you're going to see that one of the actors, Ellen Burstyn, she keeps getting up and walking to the sink, and every time she does, the line changes or it shifts. So we're going to take a look at that right now. Okay, right now, this is from Requiem for a Dream. As you notice, Jared Leto's on the right, Ellen Burstyn's on the left. And if you watch right now, look at the lighting. Notice that the dark is on the right side of their faces, or her left, his right. And we see the light. And we're on the light side right now, because they're talking about good things. He's talking about how she forgives him and he forgives her, and he just bought her a new TV. And right now, he starts to realize something. And that's why we're pushing in right now. He's going to figure something out. This is where the tables are going to change. He starts realizing that she's gritting her teeth because she's on drugs. And watch when he realizes it. It's right here. He's looking around. All of a sudden, the camera, we're going across the 180. The camera stops. And now he's on the left. She's on the right. And now we're on the dark side, because now we're talking about drug addiction. I thought this was beautiful. I love how the lighting worked with the 180 break, and it works with the emotion of the scene also. Now, in a little bit, she's going to get up and she's going to walk to the kitchen. And when she gets up, I want you to realize something, that when she moves towards the kitchen right here, there's a new line being drawn between them right now, a new line of axis. So we're going to stay on that side. Now at one point she's going to walk back, and when she does, see, the screen direction is perfect. But when she goes ahead and pours the coffee, now that's actually, we broke the line, but it's okay because we can see her. If we can see her in the frame, we have a point of reference. So it's not that bad. See, she does it again right there with that wipe. When she goes by, we can see her. So that's actually breaking the rule twice, but doing it to where it wasn't that jarring to us. You know, it actually worked, and it was motivated because of what was happening. Okay, so I hope you enjoy that, and it's a pretty good film. I'll tell you, it's a hard film to get through because it's pretty tough with the subject matter, but it is a tour de force when it comes to composition and emotion. I think it's a well-made film by Darren Aronofsky. Okay, now I'd like to talk about the 30-degree rule. This is a pretty basic rule, but I see a lot of students break this. And sometimes it's good because the 30-degree rule keeps you from having jump cuts. It states that you must move the camera 30 degrees or more to constitute a new shot. If you don't move the camera 30 degrees or more, you must increase or decrease your shot size by half. That means if I was shooting somebody in a full shot and then I cut to them in a medium shot, that works. If they're in a full shot and I cut to them to a 3/4 shot, which is around their knees, it's not going to be much of new information. So it's going to look like a glitch. And if you don't move the camera 30 degrees or more, let's say on this diagram, if we're shooting from the camera, shooting the 2-shot down at the bottom, if we're shooting with that camera and then we just move it about 3 inches to the left and try to do that shot again and then cut them together, those actors aren't going to do the same thing twice, and it's going to look like a jump cut. There's no reason. There's no new information. So if you move the camera in increments of 30 degrees, that's enough of an angle to constitute a new shot. You may want to shoot some cutaways of the other actor, and we're going to talk about L cuts later, but so that if you do that, you can keep from that happening if you have a reaction shot, so the audience forgets where they were before, and now you can actually move the camera wherever you want it to if you have a shot in between it. So the 30-degree rule states you must move the camera 30 degrees or more to constitute a new shot. And I see this happen all the time, but you might want to do that. What if you have somebody walking down a hall and you want to get them to the door faster and it takes them, a minute to walk down the hall? Well, you can actually use jump cuts real fast to get them through the hall. So if you want to, you can move the camera anywhere you want, but if you're doing it for a stylistic purpose. Just don't do it. If you do it and it's an accident, it's going to jump out and people are going to go, that's an amateur filmmaker. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind. The 30-degree rule is very important. This is another kind of crude version of it. Just remember to move it 30 degrees. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to our next podcast. I hope you're having fun. Thanks.